So, you think you're untouchable?
Word life. This is basic thugonomics. This is basic thugonomics. Word life. I'm untouchable, but I'm forcing you to feel me. Word life. This is basic thugonomics. Word life. I'm untouchable, but I'm forcing you to feel me.
Good evening, Who Dat Nation, and happy Wednesday, Bayou Blitz family. I hope everybody is doing super well out there. We are nearing football season again. I guess if you count training camp as football season, we are in it. But the games won't count for about another 5 weeks. So you're going to have to put up with 5 weeks of analysis from myself, Bob Rose, one of your co-hosts of your Bayou Blitz, and the gentleman to my left. Yeah, to my left, as I stare at my screen, your other co-host of your Bayou Blitz podcast, Brendan Boylan. Brendan, I want to thank you and Alan Ulrich for putting up a great show without me last week, and welcoming me in as a guest to my own show, live from Virginia Beach. But I hope you and Alan had fun doing it. I know you put on a great show. I was tuning in best I could, as I was spoiling myself walking on the boardwalk with sand under my toes.
Well, and thank you for the week prior. You and Alan hung out on Under the Dome, and we directed some people over there while I was in Florida for business and a little fun as well. You know, when you're in Florida, it's not all business. You got to have a little fun, but we certainly appreciate you guys taking care of that as well. We apologize for the delay tonight as some technical difficulties, but it looks like we're up and running. Looks like we're good to go. Just like the Saints going into training camp. Before we get started, Bob, I know you're going to want to talk about our friends and get checked or check out, but I also want to give a quick shout to our friend Thomas Manning. Congrats on yet another Real to Real International Film Festival. Showed 38 films over the week and had filmmakers from all over the world, including one that flew from Belgium to have his film shown at the festival. So really cool, lots of fun. Congrats, Thomas, on a second year directing that film festival. And then selfishly, just because I'm in the Charlotte area, just a shout out to Concord Zone, Bubba Wallace, for winning the Oval up in Indianapolis this past week, becoming the first African-American driver to ever win on the Oval up in Indy. So congrats to Bubba and the 2311 team. Bob, let's hear it. When it comes to our friends get checked or checked out, I'm going to have to share some news with you as well. Some news that I think they'll like about the potential trip down to Charlotte, trying to get some things planned. Got a couple connections and had some good conversation in regards to that with some people down here this past week. So,
well, great. I can't wait for you to share your news. But before we do that, the Bayou Blitz continues to be proud in promoting, Get Checked or Check Out, who sponsors and runs the original Go Black and Gold Celebrity Charity Fan Cruise. Had a blast on the 2025 cruise, this past March, late March, going to Cozumel, meeting up with some terrific fans who I now consider family, and you guys made us feel like your family as well. The 2026 original Go Black and Gold Celebrity Charity Fan Cruise, the specific dates are March 26th through March 30th, 2026. This year's cruise will sail out of Jacksonville, Florida, to the Bahamas, specifically Celebration Key and Nassau. It's a Carnival Cruise Lines, but it's very easy to book your cabin now. As a matter of fact, I strongly recommend you book your cabin as soon as possible. You can do so directly through Summer Cochran at Seven Seas Travel. Summer's number is 985-643-6958. and that's her cell phone. So, she tells me to let you guys know if it's easier to text rather than call, then please do so. But you can book directly through her. Summer is a cruise goer herself, a veteran cruise goer, and is a big part of the celebrity charity fan cruise. We spent a lot of time with her, as well as many others this past year, and she's just great. So when you do book with Summer, make sure you mention myself, Brendan, and the Bayou Blitz podcast. She is keeping track, and I'm hoping to get a lot of new faces on this year's cruise. We want to expand this thing. Again, is sailing out of Jacksonville, Florida, but there are spots leaving from New Orleans to Jacksonville, a bus line. For details on that, you can contact Shireen DeWalt at Get Checked or Check Out. Shireen is the co-founder of the site. She'll fill you in on the group packages that are available to leave from New Orleans to Jacksonville for the shipboarding. As for myself, I don't know 100% for sure yet, but I think I'm going to be flying down directly into Jacksonville and just meeting you guys at port. But I am for sure going. My cabin is already booked. So you guys book yours today. The Saints greats that are confirmed for this year's cruise so far are Delvin Breaux, Tyrone Hughes, Michael Lewis, and Pierre Thomas. We are expecting at least a couple others, so stay tuned for that. Had a great time with those guys last year, and unlike other cruises, other celebrity cruises, you're intermixed with these guys and their families the entire time. You're eating dinner with them, you're hanging out with them in the cabins and the different different areas of the ship on the deck, and it's fantastic. There's a highly competitive putt contest, as well as other Q&A sessions with your Saints favorites, and like I said, just real up close and personal. So please book your cruise today. The proceeds, of course, benefit Get Checked or Check Out, which is a specific site set in place to hook up not only patients or people who have received medical diagnosis that you think might be your worst nightmare, but also the families. They'll set you up and point you in the direction of different resources, the next step, research possibilities, things like that. But they need our help. Not only through the cruise lines, but please go to the Get Checked or Check Out website. Educate yourself a little bit about it, and donate. Any little bit helps. Get Checked or Check Out, and along with the Bayou Blitz, are also focusing on different monthly health awareness issues. And July, as we round out July, man, that went in a flash, didn't it? But July is Sarcoma and Bone Cancer Awareness Month. This is a rare group of cancers which malignant cells form in the bones or soft tissues. Bone and joint cancers are most frequently found in teenagers, but soft tissue cancers typically found in ages 55 and up. And obviously there are exceptions to that. So, we can't urge you enough. Get your screenings done today. Not only for sarcoma and bone cancer, but other issues as well. Other types of cancers, heart, kidney ailments, mental health. We talked about that, focused on that a couple months ago. But the most common sign for sarcoma and bone cancer are painless lumps or swellings in your arms or legs. Now, the good news is there's a 65 to 85% survival rate with early diagnosis. So again, get yourself checked out as soon as possible, not only for this, but anything else. Make sure you keep up on those doctor appointments, focus on your mental health, eye health awareness we focused on a couple of months ago. So just keep up on everything, please. And again, don't forget to book your cabin now for the original Go Black and Gold Celebrity Charity Fan Cruise. Again, Summer Cochran's number is 985-643-6958. Get Checked or Check Out is also going to hold other events throughout the football season. details of which are still being worked out. But any questions about this, the cruise, or get checked or check out, in general, please feel free to reach out to me. I can send you in the direction of Shireen DeWalt or Summer Cochran if it comes to the cruise. We want to. We're so proud to be able to do some work and for some promoting for Get Checked or Check Out. But like I said, they need our help.
Well said, Bob. And some of those other events you talked about, there was some rumblings about potentially having some interaction down here in Charlotte. Well, I'll tell you this. Had a good conversation about a potential spot where we could use for a live show if you're coming down this year. Had a good conversation about that. So I'll keep everybody in the loop when it comes to that. Let's talk some football. I think today the fun topic is the latter half of what you see on your screen, which draft set the Saints back. But I guess we should talk about what's going on in training camp. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of put this out there, and I know, Bob, you're going to piggyback on it a little bit, if not a lot of bit. Bob and I are not discussing quarterback play until the end of at least the first game of the preseason, right?
That's fair.
Because what happens in training camp, yes, it's important. Yes, there are some things you'll see in practice that are either going to impress you or be disappointing. However, until they actually showed out on a field in a game scenario, I can't really make any judgments, accurate judgments. So with that said, please don't drop anything in the comments about the quarterbacks through the first week. They were off for 2 days, as Bob mentioned to me before we went live. So what? They've really only been practicing, 4 or 5 days now?
Yeah, and all the guys are going to get all the guys are going to get first team reps. Kellen Moore told us that, and he's been true to his word. You can't expect anyone to separate themselves when it's a legitimate quarterback competition after 5 days of on-field work. So like you said, Brendan, there's really no sense in breaking down what we saw or didn't see from the quarterback position when we're seeing limited reps, and we're seeing a little bit of good, little bit of bad, little bit of what we expected. But after 5 days, let's get a game in, and then after one game, if at least one of these guys, or perhaps two of them, start to separate themselves a little bit, that you expect that to happen. Then you don't expect it to happen in the first 5 days of camp. So there's my opinion, my debriefed opinion on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we're going to see training camp highlights. We're going to see the people say, "Oh, like Rattler hit every pass in 7v7s or what have you." Great. I love hearing good, positive things out of camp.
Yeah.
Seeing good, positive things out of camp. But that doesn't mean that one player is, separating themselves this early. It doesn't mean like, oh, Rattler had a great day with the first team, so it's got to be Rattlers or Shucks or Hayner or whatever. That's just not realistically how this works.
Preach.
So
That's. Yeah.
Well, and then we could go to a lot of different positions: offensive line, defensive line. You're not going to get a real fill there because it's it's kind of touch and go at this point. It's not really full contact or anything. So there's that to remember as well. I do like seeing that some of these DBs have performed well, and Kool-Aid McKinstry got some high praise. Like those things like that, I have a lot more value in than I do
for sure.
talking about the quarterbacks.
For sure.
So that's just very quickly takes on training camp so far. There's only so much we can say. And remember, one of my favorite things to point to when it comes to camps, practice, and things like that, you go and you ask teammates of Shaquille O'Neal about what Shaq could do in practice, hitting free throws and hitting jump shots. They said it's like, that guy would have been an 80% or better free throw shooter his whole career if he shot in games like he did in practice. So prime example, even for some of the greats in their sport, just because they perform well at practice does not mean they perform well on game day. So that's another reason that I'm just right now, like, yeah, it's great to hear some things, but I'm not putting a whole lot of stock in anything.
No, and like you said, and I've said this, I said this with Alan last night on Under the Dome. I've written about it a little bit, as I'm slowly getting back into my writing groove, coming back from vacation. It's next to impossible to get a feel for how improved, if any, that either the offensive or interior defensive line is, because there's no physicality in training camp now. So we're going to have to wait for the games for that also. We are seeing some decent things out of Chase Young, Carl Granderson on the edge, Fadil Diggs too, the rookie 7th-round draft choice from Syracuse. They've all had some nice quarterback pressures, but the problem with them was never the pressures. It was finishing plays. Well, you can't finish plays in 7-on-7s or 2-hand touch. So got to wait for the games. Running backs. Kendre Miller. It looks great so far. Great. Get back to me if he's put together 12, 13 games of healthy football, and then I'll be impressed. Alvin Kamara. You expect to be Alvin Kamara. Kind of like what you just said about Shaquille O'Neal and players like that. You expect your stars to be stars. The position and the matchups that I was always going to watch were wide receivers versus defensive backs, because that's really where you get your most informative positional overviews. In today's types of NFL training camp. And like you said, the defensive backs as a group, I am far more impressed with than I have been the wide receivers. Olave, Shaheed, they've had some great days. In fact, they've been consistently very good. Mason Tipton had some moments. Last year's training camp darling looks like this year's training camp darling. We'll see if he can carry that over into the regular season. Bub Means, extremely quiet so far. Kind of disappointed about that. Same thing with Cedric Wilson, Donovan Peoples-Jones. So hopefully at least one of those guys can turn it on through training camp and as we get into the preseason. Otherwise, wide receiver is going to be a little bit of a concern for me. But like I said, defensive backs as a whole, and specifically a couple individuals like Kool-Aid McKinstry, Quincy Riley, the rookie from Louisville. I think that they've had outstanding camps. Having said all that, it's only one weekend. So waiting to see if some of these guys that are performing well can sustain it, or if some of the guys that have been invisible, Bub Means, Isaiah Foskey, etc. Andy Stutzman has been extremely impressive too, by the way. See if these guys who have been pretty invisible so far, see if they can turn it on. I'm not gonna set anything on fire or jump for joy and start booking playoff tickets after 1 week of training camp. That's just that.
Exactly. Well, and then you used a great word, and that's training camp darling, right? We talk about that every year. There's a darling of training camp. Well, we talk about training camp darlings or guys who were great in training camp that never cracked the roster or are kind of one of those guys that are stuck on a practice squad for their entire career. Goes back to the whole, how much stock do you really want to put into training camps and practices? Like, I understand for some guys, that's how you crack a team. That's how you make a roster. But to Bob's point, are you going to set cars on fire in the street if somebody doesn't perform well at training camp? No. So that's enough about training camp. It's still silly season. It's still fun season, right? Because it's still, in my mind, it's still the off season. Which allows us to talk about super random stuff. Last year, Bob and I had a whole episode talking about the 2011 New Orleans Saints, our favorite team, Saints team, and maybe all time, not just recent memory. So today, I wanted to pose the question because when Bob was a guest on his own podcast a week ago, I went on a little mini rant on how we never look back at complete draft classes, and we never look back on trades that involve draft picks, right? You have a big trade, and it's so-and-so was traded for 3 first-round draft picks, but nobody ever goes back and goes, well, what do those first-round draft picks become? Well, we kind of had that conversation, which led to this topic discussion. Which draft set the Saints back the most?
And the fun part about that is the way that people interpret that's going to be completely different, right? Just like anything. Set the Saints back in what sense? So I've kind of broken it down for me into a few draft classes. So I'll list some, we'll talk about it. Bob's going to bring some up, and we're going to talk about it. But immediately, what I think when you say set the Saints back, I think about championship windows.
Yes.
And how a draft may have prevented the Saints from making the next step. So with that, I do want to address drafts that I feel elevated the Saints and did not set them back. I look at 16 and 17, and particularly, we all know the history of 17. Lattimore, Ramczyk, Marcus Williams, Alvin Kamara, Anzalone, Trey Hendrickson, all those guys. Even if it was just for a 2-3 year stretch, all of those guys contributed to the team, right, and elevated them. I think 16 gets forgotten about a lot because 17 was so great. But 16 equally just as vital into elevating the Saints into that stretch from 17 to 20, where they were real Super Bowl contenders year in and year out. You had Sheldon Rankins, Michael Thomas, Von Bell, and David Onyemata. Let's not forget Daniel Lasco, the running back from Cal, taken in the 7th round, who I don't even know if he actually recorded statistics with the Saints or not. Let's see. 11.
Yeah.
11
yeah, I was
carries.
gonna say he did, and then either broke his neck or got a severe concussion early in the year, and that was basically the end for Daniel Lasco.
Well, there you go. But so those are ones that I feel elevated. So how I interpret the question, which drafts did the polar opposite of that? Right? So here are two in the same time frame that I feel set the team back. Right? Maybe not set the team back as much as some others, but this is what I would call your honorable mentions or fighting for playoff position type of drafts, right? And they're back-to-back years. It's 14 and 15, right? And the reason I say that is you had 11 where the Saints were incredible. 12 was a weird year. 13, the Saints make the playoffs. And then 14 and 15 were very forgettable. And 16, you started seeing that rise again. But 2014, Brandon Cooks, the 20th overall pick. Say what you will about how it ended the first time, and now he's back. It was weird. He was very productive for the Saints during that first stretch. And then after that, it gets really forgettable. Stanley Jean-Baptiste, which was something. He played 5 games. 5 NFL games. Kari Fort, a linebacker out of Cal, played a whopping 3 games. Vinny Sinceri out of Alabama, who I actually liked on special teams, but he was a guy who got hurt and then just never came back. Ronald Powell, he came up in conversation at some point this past year, and I don't remember why.
He passed away. He passed away. That's
that
why.
What it was? Okay.
Yeah.
That's why. Well, he was the number one high school recruit in the country going to Florida. Ended up being a 5th round pick. But that's always going to be one of my favorite random notes on any Saints player. Number 1 prospect coming out of high school in the 5th round. And then Tavon Rooks, who was an offensive lineman who did not log a game for the Saints. That was 2014. So keep that in the back of your mind, right? 2015, you might be able to argue was a little better, but I think you could equally argue it was just as worse, or it was worse. Andrus Peat was your first round draft selection. Okay. Say what you will about Andrus Peat, multi-time Pro Bowler. That is a solid pick, right? And then after that, it's just kind of like,
well, I mean, we'll mention Stephon Anthony in a minute, but you're talking about Tyler Davison, who was a good run stopper, rotational piece for a few years, and PJ Williams, who in the latter stages of his Saints career, once they finally stopped trying to play him at cornerback, trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, and left him as off ball, nickel corner, or a hybrid safety. That's when PJ started to create some turnovers. But Stephon Anthony, a rookie of the year. I called him the beast incarnate, early on, because he was just a physical specimen, but absolutely clueless when it comes to football IQ, instincts, and awareness. And that was very quickly exposed by his second season. And by his third year, he was basically the back end of a roster kind of guy.
Yeah, special teamer. Ended up being a special teams guy for Miami for a few years as well. I remember obviously living in this area, and he went to Clemson. People at Clemson spoke so highly of the athletic talent. But the thing was, he's so athletically gifted, but if he could ever get it in between the ears, he's going to be a really good football player. And he just didn't. Calvin said Stephon Anthony catching strays. No. It was bad.
No, I said they ain't strays. They're pretty much direct shots.
Yeah, they were bad. I mean, to your point, Calvin, yes, I'm sure Stephon Anthony was not expecting for a random podcast on July 30th in 2025 to be talking poorly about him. But yeah, my Stephon Anthony fun fact is he's the first player in NFL history to score a defensive 2-point conversion.
Mm-hmm.
But that also goes back to the fact that he was a super athletic guy. And that's probably where he belonged. Not a first-round pick that was going to be the brains of the operation on the defensive side. Hioli Kikaha, which was a guy who the few games we got out of Kikaha where he was healthy, you saw some of the promise that made him a second-round pick.
Oh, yeah.
But it was the ACLs.
His knees both knees were held together by 12-year-old rubber bands.
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing. It was even going into that draft, it was like somebody's going to take a swing on him because of how talented he is.
Mm-hmm.
But how long are the knees going to hold up? And they just didn't. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if he lasted 2 seasons. 27 games. So yeah, right about 2 years. Garrett Grayson.
Garrett Grayson often catches strays from you, which amuses me.
Yeah, well, and maybe it'll go away now that Tyler Shuck has been drafted, but the fact that the thing was always, the Saints had not drafted a quarterback in the first 3 rounds since Archie Manning, and then it became Garrett Grayson. You're like, ugh, that's tough. And the thing was, if you threw on the tape of Colorado State tape, it wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It wasn't something that blew you away, but it wasn't bad. There were some intangibles and some tools. You're like, okay, well, this guy, if you sit him under Drew Brees, maybe he'll come along. And it was tough. It was tough. Then you talk about PJ Williams, already got that. Davis Toll out of Chattanooga. I don't think he ever played a game for the Saints. Damian Swan out of Georgia. Concussions for Damian Swan. Marcus Murphy. That's just kind of one that he found a role as a return man. He had a punt return for a touchdown in Carolina. He wasn't an outstanding return man, but he wasn't a terrible return man. Quickly got replaced, and that was that. But think about, and we talk about this sometimes. I don't think we talk about this a whole lot, Bob. And we kind of did when it came to talking about the Ricky Williams trade a week ago, when we were talking about and breaking that down and how it actually helped the Saints because of all the money they saved from not selecting all those players. So the opposite here is you have the 14 draft where the Saints took a ton of players and none of them hit. Or for the 15 draft, took a ton of players. None of them hit outside of Andrews Pete. The 14 draft, you took 6 players. Brandon Cooks was the only one. So those are my honorable mentions. But when I really think of drafts that set this team back.
Well, can I interrupt you for a minute?
Go for it.
I think that they're higher. They're much higher for me than just honorable mentions, and here's why.
Okay.
You're talking about a team that obviously won the Super Bowl in 2009. limped to the finish line because of injuries in 2010 and should have won the Super Bowl in 2011. But that championship window was starting to close because of a rapidly aging defense. And the 2014 and 15 drafts, and for that matter, 2012 and 2013 didn't help them either. But 2014, 2015 drafts, most of the players that we talked about were on the defensive side. Kari Fort, Sinceri, Ronald Powell, Davis Tall, Damian Swan, PJ Williams, Stephon Anthony, Haoli Kakaka, Davis Tall, all defensive players. And what were the Saints in 2014, 2015, 2016? Still an elite offense, especially passing offense, historically bad defenses. So literally your bad drafts in those 2 years, literally, and I know this is what you're going to segue into, with the later drafts too. When people talk about, Sean Payton or the Saints in general, wasted, Drew Brees' prime years. Now, I mean, I don't know about wasted because, Drew Brees single-handedly kept the Saints competitive, in most games during those years. But the reason why they weren't legitimate championship contenders is because you couldn't rebuild that defense through the draft. So I put those as mega draft failures, that seriously cost the team. Now, the 2016, 2017 drafts brought them instantly back into relevance as far as being championship contenders. And this is where I'll hand it back to you prior to my interruption.
I was going to say maybe a better honorable mention was like 2012, because they didn't have picks in the 2012 draft, but it was Hakeem Hicks, Nick Toon, Corey White, Andrew Tiller, Marcel Jones. That might be a better honorable mention.
Yeah.
Because you go, okay, well, they didn't have a first or second round pick, but Hakeem Hicks was the best player in that. And I don't know. I don't remember how many games he played in New Orleans before he got shipped out, but there's that. 2010, outside of Jimmy Graham, it depends depends on how you view P-Rob, right?
Not fondly.
Not great in New Orleans. He was around. Obviously, he won a Super Bowl in Philly, but I digress. All right, so for me, and we were kind of talking about this before we went on, I think for me, the two that are going to compete here, in my mind, for the ones that set the team back the most, and I'm talking we're talking modern here. I mean, I'm sure we can go back to when there was 20 million rounds of the draft and be like, well, the Saints didn't hit anything here.
Because I mean, the drafts through the 70s were downright abysmal. Mora and Finks had some great drafts in 81 and 86 specifically, like legendary drafts. They were right up there with 2017. But their failures to draft well in the early 1990s, outside of Willie Rofe and Lorenzo Neal in 93. Their failures to draft well through the early 90s, when that Dome Patrol defense got old, and when the offensive players, Reuben Mays, Dalton Hilliard, Bobby Hebert started to get older, they were unable to replenish through the draft, which is why you had that bottoming out at the end of the Mora era, and Ditka obviously shot it in the ass after that. I agree with you that basically when when we talk about the draft in this capitalization, basically the modern era from like 2000 on.
Right. Well, shout out to 1993, Willie Rofe, Irv Smith, Lorenzo Neal, Tyrone Hughes. Pretty good draft.
Yeah.
And then there was one other one. Let's see if my brain. Okay, the 86 draft, which you'd mentioned is one of the better ones. Hilliard, Mays, second and third round. Pat Swilling. I'm missing somebody.
Dombrowski, I think, came that year too.
Round pick. Yep. There you go. So I mean, like those two particularly were good drafts, but yeah, the two that set them back the most in my mind, almost back-to-back years. Also, I'm just gonna say it before we go any further because one of us has to. And I'll just be the guy to take some heat from anybody in the comments. It's the meme of the guy sitting there and it says something. It says "Change my mind," right? Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis were not good at drafting.
No.
Change my mind. They had two phenomenal drafts. And we're talking about some of the greatest of all time when you talk about 06 and 17 in terms of complete classes. Outside of that, it's a laughing stock. They were jokes. I mean, we just named drafts where they were lucky to get one guy. And you even want to bring up 2011, right? Which 2011, great because of who you spent your first round picks on, right? The 11 draft was Cam Jordan, Mark Ingram. The rest of that draft, no production.
Nothing.
No production. Johnny Patrick, right? Who I can't believe played 37 NFL games.
Wow.
And Martez Wilson, linebacker at Illinois, who played 38 games. And then the other picks did not play a single game. Did not appear in a single game. Okay, so if you hit on one of those guys, Cam Jordan or Mark Ingram, you did good. You hit on both, you get really lucky. And remember, those first few years with Mark Ingram was questionable. There's a lot of Saints fans wishing he went out of town. But, I mean, 12, bad. 13. I don't know if we want to talk about 13. Just little asterisk. I don't know if 13 really set them back. Because, like I said, it was kind of weird. The 2012 year was weird. 13, they get back to the playoffs.
Yeah, and it did give you Teron Armstead, a Saints Hall of Famer.
Teron Armstead, John Jenkins, a lot of good games in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Kenny Vaccaro, say what you will. Serviceable at times. Kenny Stills. We had some good Kenny Stills memories. But, like, not great. But I'm okay with, like, I can live with that. I can live with naming 3 or 4 guys from a draft where it's like, okay, they were around for a couple years.
Yeah, that at least contribute.
Right. So let's go to the list where they did not contribute.
Yeah, I mean, 14, 15, I think we both agree we can put firmly on that top 3.
Top 5.
So, yeah, definitely top 5, maybe top 3. Okay. Debatable.
So we'll do a top 3, and we'll put those guys in the honorable mentions because somebody's going to get in the 3rd spot. And somebody's going to just miss between those 2 drafts we just talked about. I think for you and me, we're both going to agree these are the 2 that set them back. It's just a matter of where we put them. We'll start with, I guess we'll go in chronological order. 2018. The 2018 draft, for a couple reasons. One, after the 4th round, I mean, you're talking about guys that did not log a full season in the NFL. Rick Leonard, Natrell Jamerson, Boston Scott, who ended up, playing for Philly and actually had a little bit of success up there. Will Clapp, who I guess that is your one exception to what I just said, is he's played a handful of games, and Boston Scott did too, just not in New Orleans. So that was bad. But that was the draft where they traded up to get Marcus Davenport, which sacrificed your first-round pick in 2019, which ended up being a good draft even without a first-round pick in 2019.
Yeah.
But Marcus Davenport set this team back because of the things Bob had just said, right? Even going into, like, the mid-2010s, the Saints' offense was never the issue. It was always the defense, right? And another one that I'm just going to go out and say it so Bob doesn't have to. Junior Gillette, you single-handedly hurt this team a lot too. You set the team back a lot too because it looked like you finally had a partner for Cameron Jordan, and then you go and you do something stupid. So Junior Gillette, you're going to be an honorable mention on this list, even though you're not a draft. But the stupidity of Junior Gillette is set this team back. So they, for however many years after that, right? 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, you're really looking for a partner for Cameron Jordan. Take some pressure off of him. And you had some guys come in that were productive, maybe not defensive ends, but like the Nick Fairley year was fun. Things like that, right? Well, you finally look like you're trading up. And first off, we all thought it was Lamar Jackson. Don't lie. Any of you in the comments, we all thought Lamar Jackson was coming. And I will be the first one to say I was not happy that that was the rumored guy at the time.
Same.
I was like, no. Like, I liked the idea of having an athletic quarterback, which I've been begging for so many years.
But one that can throw.
Right, but one that could throw. And I was like, sitting behind Drew is only going to teach you so much. I don't know if you can just like surgically remove an arm. But I digress. Ends up being Marcus Davenport. And I think all of us were like, okay, like needed that position. That was kind of like their prototype, their hybrid type of, defensive end they've been looking for.
Yep.
But even at the time, all of us were like, we just gave up what? Like, we traded what? Like 2 firsts, and that became the nickname on Saints Twitter, right? 2 firsts was Marcus Davenport. That set the team back. Traquan Smith was that draft. I don't really want to open the floor to Bob for Traquan Smith at all. This is all I'm going to say, and you can just nod your head politely, Bob. Was on the team for a handful of years. Contributed a couple handful of touchdowns. And was a guy that maybe in Bob's brain, you could not rely on a whole lot. But when you're talking about draft classes, at least he was rostered for like 5 years. He was around.
Yeah.
He gave you one of the, I'm sure for you, one of your favorite in-person sporting event memories of all time.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll cut him some slack there. But at least he was on the roster for more than, what did I say? Some of those guys, like 6 games. He was around, but that draft really set the team back because of the future assets they gave up. And then Marcus Davenport never becoming what you wanted him to. Now, some of that's injury.
Most of
it was injury. And some of it was, there are times where even when he was healthy, you're like, what is this? Like, you are 6'6", 200 whatever pounds. And you're supposed to be this speedy, athletic, strong dude. And it's just, at times, he got manhandled. It was frustrating. So I think the 18 draft set him back. For me, set him back the second most.
I'm not going to put him. I'm not going to put that one as high on the list as you. Now, my hatred for Traquan Smith is legendary, and I'm not going to open that box right now.
We still have more silly season to open that up. We could do that next week. Most hated players. We could do that. That's fine.
We mentioned a few of them tonight. Traquan, Kenny Vaccaro, P-Rob are all in my top 10. 2 of those in my top 5. But Davenport made a nice contribution as a rookie. And when they made that run and got robbed out of the Super Bowl by Goodell, Vinovich, and those goons. With Will Clapp, you had not a starting quality offensive lineman, but a good pinch hitter, to put it in baseball terms. And if you have that good pinch hitter, that you don't really want to start the bulk of the season, but you can bring in off the bench as a spot starter, or to get you a clutch hit every now and then. Will Clapp's had a pretty good career at that. Do I believe that the 2018 draft set them back? Yeah, I do, because of the assets that they gave up for Davenport. Because Davenport fell far short of expectations, forcing them to spend draft assets on a pass rusher, looking for that factor in later drafts, which we'll get into in a minute. And last thing I'll say about Traquan Smith setting them back, not being able to be a consistent complement, not even a complementary threat at wide receiver, forcing Sean Payton's ego to say, I'm just going to build, I got Traquan Smith, he's my draft choice, so I'm not going to spend any more heavy draft assets. I'm just going to rebuild my receiving core, liking what I have in the room through undrafted guys. I know it. So, I mean, as far as draft picks go, Lord knows the Saints have had, and I still say 2014, 2015 are far worse, as far as the draft picks go, which is why I don't put 2018 as high on my list of failures as 2014, 2015. Did it set them back? Yeah. Is it arguably top 5 for me? It's close. It's certainly top 10. But it might lie, definitely not in my top 3, and it might lie like on the fringe or slightly outside of my top 5, but bottom 5.
Mm. Okay. I'll give you my number 1, and it's going to be debatable. And I know some of you aren't going to like it. Bob may not like it. But I'm going off of production with the New Orleans Saints, right? Obviously, we could sit back and go, I kind of end up being really good for another team. But production for the New Orleans Saints, and this is why I think this, it's the 2020 draft. And before I tell you the picks, this is why. Last year of Drew, and the team still should have got to the NFC Championship game, right? Should have. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. We're not going to go down that road. But this draft also failed to set them up for life after Drew.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, for me, this is the draft that set them back the most. And this is the draft. They drafted Cesar Ruiz in the first round, which, at the end of the day, he's had moments where he's looked good. He's had a lot of moments where he has not looked good. And he's just kind of an average offensive guard at this point, which a lot of you would be saying with a first-round pick you'd be fine with. Okay, so be it. Didn't have a second-round pick. Spent a third-round pick on Zach Bond, who just had a stellar season, right? The problem is he had no stellar seasons in New Orleans, and I don't even think that's Zach Bond's fault. And you can go back and find some of the tapes and go back and listen to some of the podcasts. And Bob and I agreed. Now, Bob kind of went, yeah, maybe some of it is Zach Bond's fault. But how many times had you and I said, this guy's not playing the right position?
Yeah,
Like,
every week.
Every week. It was just like, they need a pass rush. Like, they need a pass rush. They need a pass rush. How about you take the guy who was a pass rusher in college and at least go, you know what? Let's give him a shot, like, at that point. Because they couldn't produce anything. That's been the last couple of years. They can't produce anything in terms of a pass rush. I was like, well, just give him a shot. And what do you know?
Yeah.
Philly uses them the right way. And, they go win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, if Zach Bond was in Brandon Staley's scheme, I'd be really excited for this training camp.
Yeah, but, that one goes on. I don't know. Do you want to put that one on Sean? I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
Sean made the pick. I mean, Dennis Allen probably said, I need this. And might have even said, I want Zach Bond. But the one making the pick was Sean Payton.
Well, I'll put some of it on Dennis, too, for not being like, hey, Sean, I know you like the offensive side and I like the defensive side, so let's have a conversation. Why are we playing Zach Bond and at this position? Like, that should have came up. Dennis never made the executive decision and just be like, hey, let's just try this. So some of it goes on Dennis Allen as well. They then trade every pick they had on day 3 to get back into the end of the third round, which at the time, and Bob and I think we did this draft together in 2020. It might have been one of the first years we did it together.
We did with Kyle Mosley, but yeah, so we did it.
I remember that draft being like, who are they trying to get? Like, that's a lot. Again, it's day 3 picks, say what you will, but I was like, that's a lot to get back into the third round. They take Adam Troutman. I was pretty high on Adam Troutman. Not even going to lie. I thought he was going to be a guy that was going to be a contributing tight end for a long time. Maybe not great, maybe not a Pro Bowl caliber, but a guy that I thought was going to contribute for a long time. Outside of the one touchdown in Tampa Bay, like, I can't tell you anything else that he did.
Nope.
It was bad. It was bad, right? And then, they get a 7th round pick, which one of the funniest stories of all time, with Tommy Stevens, who was supposed to be like another Taysom Hill prototype clone thing. and that he had agreed to sign a contract as an undrafted free agent. And so the Saints were like, well, no, we want him. So we're just going to trade back and draft him. So he can't sign as an undrafted free agent with whoever, which sounds like a lot of tampering that should have ended in penalties. But I don't know. When you start having confirmed sources say stuff like that, I don't know. Maybe the league office should have done something. That draft set him back. Yes, you have an answer at guard if you want to say you have an answer at guard. Average guy in Cesar Ruiz. But the rest of that draft, Bob spoke so much about defense and how the defense was never there for Drew over the years. Well, you draft Zach Bond, you don't play him in the right position. Tight end has been something that we've harped on since Jimmy Graham got traded all those years ago. That doesn't pan out. That was another guy that was a strict Sean Payton guy because he was in Denver now. And then Tommy Stevens, which was another Sean Payton guy. He didn't even make the team, did he?
Nope.
Because he ended up going to Carolina. The team that
Carolina ended up with him anyway.
Yeah, they reportedly was the team that had agreed to an undrafted free agent deal with him. That draft set him back. Because in my mind, could you imagine if one other guy outside of Cesar Ruiz was able to contribute in 2020? Could you imagine if they had drafted a receiver? I don't even want to look at who the receiving class was in 2020. If they had drafted a receiver that could have played in 2020, right? Because Mike Thomas was out for so much of it.
Yep.
Right? And who did they end up getting that year? Who did they trade for that year?
They got Emmanuel Sanders.
Who ended up having a good year in New Orleans. But yeah, like that one's probably number one for me in recent drafts. Because you look at, and it's all the 2020 draft you have to look at, because hindsight's always 2020. Haha. But I think a lot of it's because of what happened after 2020. It's not even 2020 as a whole, because they should have made the NFC Championship game, but it was this 21, 22, 23, 24, where the team is abysmal to watch because they couldn't strike in 18. They couldn't strike in 20. 2019 even. Yeah, Eric McCoy, but you had 2 good years of Gardner Johnson and nobody else.
Yeah, before he went all Junior Gillette.
Yeah, good. Yes, I like that. So yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, and I mean, Cesar Ruiz, I've never liked as a player, ever. But I understood the pick, and he did fit a role. But you're talking about, as you said, Drew Brees' declining years, and you completely ignore the wide receiver position.
Yep.
Brees, of course, retires after 2020. I'll segue us into the draft that pissed me off probably more so than the 2020 draft.
Ooh, yes.
2021.
That was an honorable mention for me, so that'll be interesting.
But I put that one higher than honorable mention because my hatred for Peyton Turner, my hatred for the pick at the time. Look at and Pete Werner was the second round, Paulson Adebo the third round. I love Paulson Adebo. I did then. I understood the Pete Werner pick, but again, it baffled me. You're now without Drew Brees, so you're going into the season with Jameis Winston. You're banking on Michael Thomas returning. Okay, great, but who else do you got? Traquan Smith. Emmanuel Sanders was gone. So, you have a bunch of undrafted guys because, Sean's ego. Look at the wide receivers that were still on the board between the Peyton Turner pick and the Pete Werner pick. Are you pulling it up now, Brendan? It's an incredible list.
Yeah,
Deebo Samuel, Michael Pittman, T. Higgins, I believe, were the 3 big names, but there are like 6 wide receivers that any Saints fan would kill to have on the roster right now that you could have had over Peyton Turner, over Pete Werner. And I'm not disrespecting Pete Werner. He's a solid player, unspectacular, but solid player. You didn't need a linebacker as badly as you needed especially since you had Quan Alexander on the roster at the time. Now, granted, it's always dangerous to bank on Quan Alexander's health, but my point is, you needed a wide receiver far worse than you needed a linebacker or a day 3 reach in the first round in Peyton Turner. And that's why the 2021 draft gave the Saints slightly more talent than the 2020 draft, but the players that they left on the board were why that draft pissed me off so badly.
Yeah, I can read some of these guys for you. So Peyton Turner goes 28th. So even just looking back and not just like singling out a specific position, but like guys that I remember going like that would have been a better pick. Eric Stokes out of Georgia, the defensive back, was the very next pick.
Yep.
I remember that making me mad. Elijah Moore was the next receiver off the board out of Ole Miss. I mean, again, other positions you could have addressed. Kelvin Joseph out of Kentucky, Asante Samuel Jr. out of Florida State, Rondale Moore out of Purdue. I like his tape. I'm really glad they didn't get him.
But I loved Rondale Moore too.
Dwayne Bridge, Terrence Marshall, who did not have a good career, and then the Saints ended up taking Pete Werner. And then you had to run on quarterbacks right after that, which, to your point, Bob, like the Saints probably should have addressed, but Kyle Trask, Kellen Mond, Davis Mills, not great quarterbacks. But still, like there's enough here where you're just like, what are they doing? Chaz Surratt out of North Carolina.
I loved him.
I did too.
But they keep naming the wide receivers.
Amari Rodgers, Nico Collins. Let's keep going. Oh, here's a pretty big one in the 4th round was St. Brown.
Yeah.
4th round. Good Lord. I love looking back at drafts and being like, what?
Was Debo T. Higgins and Michael Pittman in 2020?
That was 2020.
Okay, well, okay.
Still, to your point.
Then I now elevate my 2020 draft higher than 2021. But yeah, basically for 2 straight 2020 and 2021 to me are right there on even par with 2014 and 2015 as far as just abysmal drafts that set this team back. If you want my 4 of my top 5, those 4 are it. I'll begrudgingly throw the 2018 draft in as number 5 again because of the assets that they gave. But yeah, in no particular, I'll try to list them in order. I'll go 2015 as my number 1 draft failure of all time because of how many defensive players they missed on. Then 2014 because they just you brought no help to the defense. Then I'll go 2020 as number 3, and 2021 is 4. 2018 is 5. As far as recent drafts in the last 25 years, this set this team back.
Okay, I will go 2020 is my number 1. And I just pulled up that draft, so just to end today's podcast, just foaming at the mouth in frustration. Cesar Ruiz went 24th in the first round. Unfortunately, Justin Jefferson went 22nd. But 25th, Brandon Ayuk. Jordan Love went 26th. I remember that was a big conversation at the time if the Saints were going to take a quarterback. Then here's your run and receivers that you liked: T. Higgins, Michael Pittman. Depending on what positions you want to talk, I'm just going to name guys that have been to Pro Bowls: DeAndre Swift, Xavier McKinney, Robert Hunt, Jonathan Taylor, Antoine Winfield Jr.
Wow.
KJ Hamler was a receiver, Chase Claypool, Jalen Johnson, Travion Diggs, Jalen Hurts. 2 running backs there that I liked a lot. Cam Akers, who's on the team now. J.K. Dobbins. Van Jefferson, a receiver. Denzel Mims, a receiver. A.J. Dillon went in the second round. Jeremy Chin went in the second round. This is all between the Saints picks, by the way. Let's said Jeremy Chin, Antonio Gibson. Okay, then Zach Bond, and then I could keep going. Just guys that they've missed, to your point, because they did not address particular positions, which is extremely frustrating. And then just for giggles, I'm going to scroll really quickly through guys they could have missed in day 3 because they traded all their day 3 picks. Gabe Davis, still like a lot.
He's still unsigned, isn't he?
I don't think he's gone anywhere yet.
Interesting.
L'Jarius Sneed was a 4th round pick. It's a good one. Jack Driscoll, guard. Shane Lemieux. Okay. Did not expect to see him that high. Bryce Hall. Not to be confused with Breece Hall. And then now we're in the 6th round. Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's on the roster now, but 6th round pick. Not anything like crazy, but still guys that would have probably contributed a little bit more than anybody else. Eno Benjamin was a 7th round pick that year. Shout out to my guy, Eno Benjamin. It's going to be one of those guys that's just like, dang it, why didn't that work out? 2020 is going to be number 1 for me. Number 2, I'm going to throw the 2014 class. 3, the 15, 4, 18. Can I use 5 as an honorable mention? It's my podcast. I can do what I want, right?
Yeah.
So this is my 5th one is like to be determined, right? But has a strong possibility to land in the top 5 is 2023.
Yeah.
Brian Bresee went 1st. Isaiah Foskey 2nd. Kendre Miller went in the 3rd. Saldiveri, Hayner, Howden, A.T. Perry. That has strong contention to be one where you look back and you're like, oh my God. That was bad. Calvin also said no love for the tight end of Kobe Fleener. No, they tried.
They did.
I was going back to the tight end conversation, but they tried. It just didn't work. But yeah, the 23 draft is going to be one where you look back and you're going to be a lot of it's up to 2 guys, right? Can Isaiah Foskey even sniff the field this year? And can Kendre Miller stay healthy?
Yeah. If they can hit, if they don't hit on either one of those guys, then I think 2023 it might even supersede 2020. It certainly probably supersede 2021 and 2018 because that the misses of 2023 is what has sent this franchise into a tailspin, forcing them to use back-to-back selections on offensive lineman high, forcing them to overpay, for a Chase Young, situations like that. And I always bow my head in shame a little bit at the 2023 draft because I do two full mock drafts every single year. And if you combine my 2 full mock drafts, I had every single player that year drafted to the Saints, in various rounds. But Bresee, Foskey, Kendre Miller, Nick Saldiveri. Anytime you hit on an Old Dominion pick in day 3, you're pretty proud of yourself. Jordan Howden and A.T. Perry. I hit on all those guys. Jay Kaner. I hit on all those guys at one point or another through my 2 mock drafts. So I was very proud of myself then. Now I'm kind of bowing my head in shame.
A little bit. Well, you and I can always go back to the 22 where we both had Olave and Penning.
Yeah.
I mean, we could always just do that and be like, yeah, we did it.
Yep.
So that was a fun one. Talk about a lot of sad things.
Yeah, sent you folks into a fury going into the remainder of the week.
Yeah. Next week we'll do something a little. Well, I really do think it'd be fun next week to just talk about. Hate's a strong word. Next week let's talk. Obviously,
It's our podcast. I don't mind using the word hate at all.
Okay, well there you go. Yeah. So most hated and disappointing Saints players of all time, because there's a difference, right? You could have not been high on a guy or liked a guy, but still thought he would have contributed, and then he just was a major disappointment. So I think it'd be fun to go down that road and go, okay, like give me your top 5, like hated / disappointed. Like disappointed, like a father, like just very disappointed in their kid, that type of thing. I think that'll be a fun one. Let's go ahead and just break the news for everybody. Brandon Browner, probably on both of our lists.
Yeah.
So, okay, there you go. Little tweet tease for next week. But we'll talk about that. We'll give you guys some more camp updates and all that good stuff. Bob, for those that don't know, Bob's no longer with Athlon. We talked about that. I'm no longer with Athlon either. Thank you, Bob. We just went to PG-13. I'm no longer with Athlon either. They have decided to let us go, the publishing team go. So
they really didn't. It was more a matter of the Arena Group, being cheap and not recognizing work and not paying for work. So them deciding to allocate out work that we've been busting our ass for, that you're just simply not going to see on the site. So it wasn't so much letting us go specifically as deciding we don't want quality on our site. So I'm going to take us from PG-13. Arena Group, fuck off.
There you go. Now we're past PG-13. But hey,
they're corrupt motherfuckers.
Well, Bob took us from PG-13 to thank God we're not on actual live TV. I'm just kidding. It's our show. We can kind of say what we want. That's the First Amendment rights that we have.
For now.
Okay. Well, Bob went there too.
I'm roaring coming out of vacation, aren't I?
Let's go for it. I'll go for it too. There may or may not be some issues that we foresee as the American people here soon, because allegedly, allegedly somebody just hit like Control-Alt-Delete on a file, a very important file. There are files, release them. With that, Bob, where can people follow you on social media and your work with Saints Wire? Now that neither of us have an affiliation with Athlon. Last thought on Athlon. You know what's really disappointing? And I had emailed John this too. I said, man, like we were about like August 1st, you start hitting your strides and your preseason work, especially when it comes to fantasy football and especially when it comes to sports betting. And I was like, that's what I was hired to do. We're going to start hitting our stride here. And it gets cut right before that.
Yep.
Also super disappointing because I'm taking the words right out of your mouth because you texted it to me or sent it to me or something. The best editorial piece I ever wrote went on that site, not the site that I had wrote for 4 years on. So that sucks too. Like
also originally run and driven into the ground and creator of all kinds of lawsuits against them by the Arena Group.
Well, we just
fuck off.
We have a great history with them, don't we?
Yeah.
But yeah, so super disappointed in that. But Bob, you're with Saints Wire. You're doing some good stuff with John Sigler over there. Where can people follow you in that work?
Yeah, I'm having a blast over at Saints Wire. So grateful that Sig brought me over there. Several other terrific writers over there also. And right now, I admittedly have been on kind of cruise control over the last 6 weeks or so. Doing Saints Player of the Day for whatever number is left as we count down towards the regular season opener, along with the history of that number. Those pieces, they're exhausting, but I do have fun doing them. I'm going to continue to do them. And then obviously a preseason analysis. As with Athlon Group and Sports Illustrated, I will continue to post all of my Saints Wire pieces on my personal social media pages at BobbyR2613 over on Twitter, and of course Bob Rose, simple as that, over on Facebook. But check out Saints Wire too, or at the Saints Wire if you're over on Twitter, to check out all of their pieces. And also on Facebook and Twitter, make sure, if you aren't already, make sure you are a member of the Bayou Blitz pages. We are trying to make that brand grow. Brandon and I have both noticed we get a lot more growth during the season than in the off season, understandably so. But we are heading into the season, and we are for sure going to be doing live game day things again. Brandon and I have yet to decide whether we're going to do pregame, postgame, both, depending on the week. But whatever we do, we're gonna be doing it through those Bayou Blitz pages, and that's also where we like to post the information coming out for not only Get Checked or Check Out. Remember to check out their website, please, but also the original Go Black and Gold Celebrity Charity Fan Cruise. Both the pictures from past cruises and information for this upcoming cruise in 2026, which again leaves March 26th, arrives back March 30th, unless you're 50-50 about coming home like I am every time I leave the state. So make sure you book your cabin for that today.
For myself, you can follow me virtually everywhere at BT Boylan. I guess I'm a free agent. First time in a while.
Yeah.
I've been a free agent. I was always somewhat associated with something for a long time. I mean, obviously still here at Bayou Blitz, but
we're associated with the Bayou Blitz, so that's something.
Yeah, so you can catch me here, follow me on the X Twitter, get some thoughts on that. Bob, I'm going to hold you for like 2 seconds after we end the stream to talk to you about something. But other than that, yeah, it's not bad. It's all good.
Okay.
Never bad stuff. If it was bad, we'd be texting about it throughout the week. We know how
Good
that
point.
goes. It doesn't
Good
get
point.
helped in until we see each other on the pod. So until next week, guys, remember it's only training camp. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. But remember, find some peace, spread love, practice positivity. Thank you guys for hanging out with us here on the Bayou Blitz. See you next week.
So, you think you're untouchable?
Word life. This is basic thugonomics. This is basic thugonomics. Word life. I'm untouchable, but I'm forcing you to feel me. Word life. This is basic thugonomics. Word life. I'm untouchable, but I'm forcing you to feel me.